Hi, welcome back to my channel, where every week I summarize a parenting or self-development book for you. And if you are enjoying these videos, please show me your support by subscribing to my channel so I can keep posting content every week. And don't forget to hit the bell button so you get notified next time I upload a video. Today, I will be discussing Nonviolent Communication, a language of life, written by Marshall Rosenberg, who was an American psychologist who developed a communication framework called Nonviolent Communication, or NVC, in the 60s. NVC is not just a communication model, it's a mindset, and it can be used to resolve conflict and improve any relationships in our lives. It is being taught in workshops all over the world, and it has been successfully used to mediate and resolve conflicts in war-torn countries, so it is highly effective. I've chosen this book today because it can be used with our kids, but we are not just parents, and we often have to deal with lots of conflicts or misunderstandings with a lot of different people in our lives, with our own parents, siblings, our partners, our work colleagues. So this is a framework that can be used to enhance any relationships in our lives. First, we will go through an overview of what NVC is, and then we will deep dive into the actual framework and how we can use it. NVC is based on one fundamental principle. We all do things for good reasons, even when we don't act right, because behind all human action are needs that people are looking to meet. And when we focus on people's underlying needs and make observations without judgment, we can actually revolutionize the way we interact with others. Because at this deeper human level, we can find out that we have more in common than we thought, and it allows for greater compassion with each other. At its core, the author believes that all human beings have capacity for empathy and compassion. We only resort to harmful behaviors when we don't get in touch with our needs and we don't find better ways to express ourselves and get what we need. It's a process that's similar to learning a new language or a skill. It requires time and practice. And because most people aren't used to expressing themselves in this vulnerable way, it may be awkward and vulnerable at first. Most of us don't believe that we talk in a violent way, but our words often hurt people. The way that we talk and the language that we use can create a lot of issues in our relationships. And it's not our fault, it's how we've been taught by society to judge others. Everything is based on being good or bad, on being right or wrong. And we often judge people badly when they don't act in harmony with our values. And this judgment can look like blame, insults, guilt-tripping, being passive-aggressive. When we talk this language, we think and communicate in terms of what's wrong with others for behaving a certain way. And we also do it to ourselves when we don't behave the way we would have liked. So for example, if your partner wants more affection than you are giving them, you can say that they are needy. But if you are the one who wants more affection than your partner is giving you, then they are insensitive. Another problem the author sees is that most of us are taught to express our feelings in terms of what another person has done to us, and we are not taught to take ownership of our own feelings and needs. Another form of violent communication is making demands, either explicitly or implicitly, because it threatens the listeners with blame and punishment if they don't do what we've asked. All of what this is simply a tragic expression of our needs and values, because it actually increases defensiveness and resistance from the very people whose behaviors are of concern to us. And if these people do agree to act in harmony with our values, they will likely do so out of guilt, fear, or shame, and this builds up resentment. So in a nutshell, we have been trained to look outside of ourselves for what constitutes right or wrong, good or bad, to be up in our head. NVC requires us to look inside, to get in touch with our feelings and our needs. Let's take a look at the actual framework now. NVC has 4 components. The first one is observation, then it's feelings, the third one is needs, and the fourth one is request. The most important parts are to connect with others and ourselves at the level of feelings and needs. So sometimes observations and requests won't be necessary. And there are 2 parts to NVC. First, you express these 4 pieces of information very clearly, and then you receive the same 4 pieces of information from others. And this establishes a flow of communication back and forth until compassion manifests naturally. Let's take a look at observation. We need to separate observation from evaluation, because when we make judgments, people tend to hear criticism and resist what we are saying. And we also need to be mindful not to make generalization and be more specific to time and context. So for example, instead of saying she always procrastinates, you can say she only studied for her exams the night before. Or instead of saying you're rude, you can say, when I saw you walk in the door and you didn't say hello, I felt hurt. Using observation language moves us away from this right or wrong thinking and helps us take ownership of our reactions by directing our attention to our needs as the source of our feelings rather than what the other person did. So in the example of the person walking in the door and not saying hello, instead of focusing on what they did, you focus on your need for attention. And when we are using this language, the other person is much more likely to actually listen to us and will be more willing to understand our feelings and our needs. Now, let's take a look at the second point, which is about expressing how we are feeling. Most of us find it difficult to identify and express our feelings, and this prevents from being able to build emotional connection with people. And actually, most of us don't express feelings. We express opinions, interpretations, and assessments of other people. And this usually leads to self-fulfilling prophecies. So for example, when you say, "You never listen to me, you're so selfish," the other person will feel hurt and discouraged to try anything else and won't want to listen to you anymore. So the first step is to focus on developing a rich vocabulary of feelings so we can clearly and specifically name and identify our emotions. And in my house, I have printed a wheel of emotions that I've stuck to my wall, and it's really helped me name and identify my emotions, from being superficial, surface level emotions to going deeper, because sometimes I feel bad and I don't really understand why. And if I can identify a deeper level emotion, it starts to make sense. So for example, I feel upset becomes I feel hurt or I feel embarrassed. But equally, I feel good can mean so many different things. It can mean I feel happy, I feel excited, I feel relieved. A common confusion is the use of the word feel without actually expressing a feeling. And in this context, the word feel can more accurately be replaced with think. So for example, I feel like Paul is being rude should really be I feel hurt. As a general rule, you should always follow I feel with an actual inner feeling like sad, and avoid using I feel like or I feel that, which are interpretations. The third component of NVC is to acknowledge our needs behind our feelings. Our feelings are our body's alarm clock, and behind every feeling, there is a need. The author actually believes that we always have good reasons for acting the way we do. You may feel guilty because you shouted at the kids this morning because you were running late for school, but in actual fact, it's because you have a need for punctuality. And in a way, understanding that may bring a sense of relief because you actually addressed that need of being on time. So now you just need to find a better way of addressing that need without shouting at your kids. So what are those needs? We all have basic needs for survival, like water, food, sleep, shelter. But we also have other needs, like intimacy, connection, freedom, security, a need for purpose and meaning. Understanding, naming, and connecting with our needs helps us improve our relationship with ourselves and create deeper understanding with others, so we are all more likely to take actions that meet everyone's needs. So if you understand that you have a need for love and connection, you can actually feel liberated because you are not tied to one particular strategy. You can actually find so many different strategies to meet that particular need that also suits everyone else around you. It can be very difficult and scary to identify and discuss our needs, especially for us women. We've been socialized to ignore our own needs while caring for others, to view this role as our highest duty. You know what I mean, the image of the mother and woman that is associated with sacrifice for others. It's everywhere. It's in books, movies, but also in subtle comments and criticism that we hear constantly. It's so ingrained in us that it is the reason why we feel guilty about everything. And the funny thing is, we never really feel guilty about not attending to our own needs. This is the reason why us women, instead of simply stating that we are tired and we want time for ourselves, we usually end up making a legal case and stating all the reasons why we deserve that time alone. A crucial piece to understand with this framework is that what people say or do may be the stimulus for our feelings, but never the cause. It is not the behavior of other people that creates our feelings, but our own unmet need. And the author believes that all violence is the result of people tricking themselves into believing that their pain derives from other people, and that consequently, those people deserve to be punished. A good example to explain this is if you're meeting a friend and she's running 30 minutes late. You may feel hurt because you have a need to know that she cares about you. You may feel frustrated because you have a need to have your time respected. Or you may feel grateful because you actually really needed those 30 minutes of quiet solitude. So we should refrain ourselves from saying things like, "You make me angry," or "It hurts mommy when you get bad grades at school." So what others say or do is never the cause of how we feel. The cause for our anger is in our thinking, in thoughts of blame and judgment. The fourth component of NVC addresses the question of what we would like to request of each other to enrich each of our lives. The author believes that whenever we say something to someone, we are always requesting something in return, even if that something is just connection or honesty. So when we are requesting something, we need to focus on what we want rather than what we don't want. And we need to avoid vague, abstract, or ambiguous phrasing and use positive action language. We need to use positive action language because negative language actually confuses people and usually provokes resistance. As women, we often just want other people to guess what we want before we are even aware of it. And when you say it like that, you realize that that person doesn't exist. So our role should be to really get in touch with our feelings and our needs and express that very clearly. And each time we speak, the clearer we are about what we want, the more likely we are to get it. It's important to understand that the objective of NVC is not to change people and their behavior in order to get our way. The goal is to establish relationships based on honesty and empathy that will eventually fulfill everyone's needs. We need to avoid making requests that sound like demands. It's a demand if the speaker then criticizes and judges, and it's a request if you remove any expectation of the outcome. And the author suggests that a good way to voice that is to start a request by saying, "Would you be willing?" Sometimes the message that we send is not always the message that's received, so we can ask the listener to repeat back what we have said. And this may feel awkward and strange at first, but we can make it clear that we are just checking that we have expressed ourselves clearly. Expressing our own observations, feelings, needs, and requests to others is one part of NVC. The second part is empathy, the process of connecting with another by guessing their feelings and their needs. Empathic connection can sometimes happen silently, but in conflict situations, communicating to another person that we understand their feelings and that their needs matter to us can be a powerful turning point. And it's important to understand that we can be empathetic without having to agree to act in ways that don't meet our own needs. Empathy is a respectful understanding of what others are experiencing. We often have this urge to give advice or reassurance, or to tell a similar story, or to explain our own opinions or feelings. What the author is telling us is that we really need to remove all preconceived ideas and judgments of others so we can empty our minds and really listen with our whole being. And we don't just listen to the words. Instead of listening to what they are thinking, we listen to what they are needing. When you no longer see other people's words as an attack, but as an expression of their own feelings and needs, the relationship can thrive. In NVC, no matter what words other people use to express themselves, we simply listen to their observation, feelings, needs, and requests. We give them the full attention they need to express themselves fully and feel understood. We may wish to reflect back, paraphrasing what they have said, before we turn our attention to solution. And paraphrasing actually helps to dive deeper into their needs and feelings, because sometimes people are stuck in surface level emotions. So when you paraphrase back and reflect back what they say, they can really ask themselves if that's what they actually feel and need. It's important to understand that we need empathy to give empathy. So if we feel like we are becoming defensive and unable to empathize, there are different things that you can do. The first thing is to express yourself and explain your own feelings and needs, and the other person may be able to offer the empathy that you need. So for example, I've used that many times with my kids where I express my feelings and my needs. I'm going to say, "I had a really bad night with the baby. I'm so tired. I need some peace and quiet." And often they actually will leave me alone and give me the quiet that I need, or they will offer a hug. Another thing is if the other person can't give the empathy that you need, if you both are at that point that you just can't empathize and listen to each other, you just need to physically remove yourself and take some time out and come back to the conflict later when you are both calm. And empathy is not just about being empathetic to other people. The most important part is probably to be empathetic to ourselves. Because when we are internally violent with ourselves, it's actually very difficult to be genuinely compassionate with other people. So when we make mistakes, instead of being caught up in self-judgment, we can use the process of NVC on ourselves. So there you have it, the nonviolent communication framework. And some of you may feel that this is too robotic and it will be awkward or strange. But even if you don't follow the process exactly as it's meant to be, even if you just learn to express your feelings and needs more and bring more empathy to the relationships around you, you would have won. And here is a summary of what I've just discussed, so you can take a screenshot on your phone. And if you've enjoyed this video, please leave me a like or leave me a comment if you have any questions or experiences you'd like to share. Thanks for watching and keep growing!